guys, welcome to Telling the Told and Untold. My name is Tshego. In March 2011, Raymond Buys was admitted into hospital with over 60 separate injuries, including a broken arm, broken ribs, chemical and electrical burns, cigarette burns, severe dehydration. The tips of his ears were missing and his hair had been scoured off. His kidneys were failing and he had brain damage. He never regained consciousness, and on the 20th of April, he was pronounced dead. Raymond Buys was born on the 2nd of June 1995 in Boksburg, just outside of Johannesburg. His mother says that he was a really lovely, good boy, and growing up, his father was never really in the picture. It was just him and his mother, Wilna. And sometimes they also struggled financially, and for the first 9 years it was just the two of them until Wilna met Guy's Nazar. They fell in love, they started a relationship, and Raymond just really didn't like Guys that much. They didn't get along, and the relationship only got better after Raymond's younger brother was born, little Guys. And this is when Raymond and Guy's relationship got better, and it seemed as though they were just getting along. Things weren't as hostile as they were in the beginning. Guy's Nazar was 49 years old when he met Raymond's mother, Wilna. He was a car salesman and had done national service. The couple's first language was Afrikaans. Guys bought Raymond cricket stuff, a rugby kit, and things like that. But after some time, Guy says it seems as though Raymond lost interest. The relationship between them just got worse, and after this, things just seemed to go downhill. Guys and Wilna couldn't get Raymond to stay in school. He would run away, and he just wouldn't turn up for events. Raymond was given Ritalin, which is basically just ADHD pills, but he refused to take them. Just before he started high school, he was taken for private treatment where the doctors put electrodes to his brain to help him be more disciplined, and apparently it did work for a while. He listened to his parents, he was more disciplined, he went to school, he didn't run away that much anymore, and it didn't last that long. And after that, Guys and Wilna just really didn't know what to do with him anymore. They felt as though he was just very problematic, and they just wanted to help him somehow. Raymond attended at least 3 different schools, and he was often bullied. On one occasion, one of the students pulled out a knife on him, and Raymond, when he was stressed and just really overwhelmed, he would involuntarily mess on himself, which also contributed to the bullying that he experienced. And just before he was kicked out of his last school, his mother decided to pull him out. Maybe just because she didn't want to go through him getting expelled again or just something like that. But he was taken out of school. And after this, she just says that things at home just got worse. He was more disruptive, less disciplined. He wouldn't listen to her or Guys, and everything was just a mess. Guy says that Raymond started smoking, swearing, and he was on his phone a lot. So basically, Guys had heard from one of his friends that his friend's cousin sent his son to some place that basically turns boys into men. It would instill discipline into Raymond, and he thought that this was a good idea. But according to him, it was just after apartheid and things weren't the same anymore. You couldn't just walk into a place of work and just get a job as easily. So because of that, money-wise, they weren't that stable. Things weren't that great, but they really wanted Raymond to go there. It cost about 22,000 rand for 3 months, and they were so desperate to get Raymond to be more disciplined in their eyes, that they even took out a loan for this. This place was called Eco Wild Game Rangers Camp, and it was run by Alex Degoka. So after hearing about this camp, Guys and Wilna got the contract just to like read through it, and on the front page of this contract it said ex-military leaders, and then after this it said streng vertroulik, highly confidential. So they went through this contract, and basically this camp claimed that they would instill faith, discipline, rules, regulations, respect, hard work, hard education, tough physical exercise, bearing, literacy, numeracy, efficiency, reliability, teamwork, animal care, and conservation and community defense. After 3 months, the idea of Raymond attending this camp seemed more appealing to Guys and Wilna, so they just decided to go check it out. It was less than an hour away from Joburg in Mooilanda. So they got there just to see how the camp was set up before sending Raymond there. And Wilna says that as soon as they got into Alex Degoka's office, it was just filled with pictures of him like everywhere. And she also claims to have not noticed the red, white, and black AWB flag that was in his office. Guy says that he saw this flag and he thought nothing of it. He was a man that did serve during apartheid, and also he wasn't happy with everything after apartheid, so for him it just really wasn't anything much. He also says that he noticed that in one of the pictures Alex was standing next to Blanche. So basically the AWB was funded by Eugene Blanche in 1973, and it was basically to resurrect the lost Boer republics as a whites only homeland. And coincidentally or not, their logo resembled the swastika. Alex claims to have trained over 300 boys, and he says after this they would all go on to find work both in and out of the country. Wilna says that she thought that after going to camp, Raymond would go get a job as like a safari guide, at like a nature reserve like your Kruger National Park, your Pilanesberg, things like that. But Guy says that he thought that Raymond would go on to be a guard for the farms because of all the farmers that were being murdered. And he just thought this because in the media and in the Afrikaans white community, everyone just kept saying that there are a lot of farm murders going on because apartheid ended. They really didn't like that, and Alex preyed on their like fears. So he would basically just tell them that, look, we'd have training, they'd be trained like how the soldiers were trained during apartheid, and they'd be able to protect your farms from all of these murders going on. Alex Degoka was born in 1964. He was described as a very big man. Some people would describe him as handsome. He had done at least 2 years compulsory national service in the apartheid era South African Defence Force, but there is no record of him attaining a rank anywhere near general. As you know, he likes to be called the general. And after serving his compulsory time in the Defence Force, he still wore the SADF uniform. After this, like, he was a very proud man. He was proud to have served his country. Wilna says that Raymond was very excited to attend this camp. He loved animals and he was excited to learn how to scuba dive. And this is because Bass Lake was it wasn't that far away from the camp. So he thought that they would also do that. Like, he thought it would just be a fun camp where, like, yes, he'll be disciplined, but he'd also have fun, make new friends and things like that. On the 12th of January 2011, Guys and Wilna dropped Raymond off at the camp. Before he went into the gates of the camp, Wilna and Raymond took their last picture together. After this, the gates behind them that had it was like elephant trunks that like would open up. opened, they took Wilna's money, and that would be the last time that she would see her son. The plot of the camp was approximately 5 acres. I'll put the conversion down below. And it was basically built around a single-story family home in which Alex the Goka lived with his wife and several children, including Anthony, one of his sons, who also helped out at the camp. There were usually 6 boys at the camp at a time, and this camp had no electricity and no running water or toilets. Just days after dropping Raymond off at the camp, Wilna called his cell phone just to, check how he's doing, seeing how he's enjoying camp, but he didn't answer. They also tried calling the camp's landline, and that too also went unanswered. After about a week, guys decided to go down to the camp to just go see how Raymond is doing, since all of their calls were going unanswered. And he says once he got there, it was empty, like there was no one there, so he just assumed that they were doing field work at the time, and he just left. Around this time, Raymond had tried to escape, but one of Alex's neighbors found him and returned him to the camp. On Valentine's Day, Alex the Goka showed up on Wilna's doorstep unannounced and told her that Raymond was basically just being disruptive and not eating. She asked if they could just stop the program and Raymond would just come home, since she wasn't speaking to him on the phone, she hadn't seen him, she didn't know how he was doing, and now she was hearing that her son isn't eating, so she just wanted him home. And Alex basically just said no, he refused, and said that he would win Raymond. On the 4th of March, Wilna received photos of Raymond on her email from Alex, and basically was just in a swimming costume, and she says that he looked really skinny, and it worried her, but she thought no, maybe it's just part of training. Guys, on the other hand, thought that this was normal. He says that, if you go to training, he expects you to lose weight and build muscle, and basically just saw nothing wrong with it. He thought it was normal and was just like, okay. After having had no contact with her son for almost 2 months, Wilna started threatening Alex, telling him that she would basically just call the police on him because he wouldn't let her speak to her son. And after this, he finally agreed to a conference call. And on this conference call, it was Wilna, it was Raymond, and Alex was in the room as well. Like, he didn't leave Raymond alone so he could be on the phone with his mom, just like the two of them. He spoke all the time, and apparently on the phone he told Wilna that Ray was hurting himself, and the only thing that he was able to say was that, "Mom, I'm not." And after Raymond said this, Alex immediately dropped the phone call. This was the last time she ever spoke to her son. Every general has a soldier, and as we know, Alex likes referring to himself as the general and wants people to refer to him as that as well, so it's only fitting that he too have his own soldiers. Michael Casper Erasmus was born in 1993, and he was the general's sergeant. Erasmus left school at just the age of 13 and ran away before his parents enrolled him in the eco camp when he was just about 17 years old. He tried to escape the camp on several occasions, but each time his parents would bring him back. And after this, when he was like a certain age, he was able to leave the camp again, but he really struggled. Like, he didn't have any food, clothing, and things like that, so he decided to return to the camp on his own because he knew that once he got there, he would have food, he would have clothing. He might have not liked the conditions according to him, but it was his safest option. The court heard that Michael would routinely beat Raymond for neglecting his duties and reportedly forced him to eat his own feces, followed by soap powder. 3 weeks in, Raymond apparently tried to hang himself, and after this, every night after this attempted suicide, Raymond would basically be tied to Michael's bed so that Michael could ensure that he wouldn't try to kill himself again. On the morning of the 24th of March, Raymond was forced to strip naked and he was plunged into a barrel of water. This barrel also had like very sharp ends, it was sharp around it, and this is what most likely caused Raymond's ribs to break, like it broke his ribs. After this, a pillowcase was placed over Raymond's head, and Alex, who had been standing by, kicked and tasered him repeatedly. Michael then chained Raymond to a flagpole, who was unconscious at this time, and after this he tried to revive him, and when all his attempts were unsuccessful, they decided to take him to Mediclinic in Vereeniging, which is about 20 minutes away from the camp. After this, they just dropped him off and they left, and this is when Alex decided to call Wilna and told her that no, Raymond just went to the hospital for some routine checkups and tests. And after this, she panicked and she decided to go to the hospital herself to go see Raymond. And once she got there, they wouldn't let her see Raymond at first, and this is because apparently Alex told the medical staff that she was the one that did this to Raymond. Hospital social workers then contacted the police, who raided the camp, and after this, Alex Tshego went on the run for about a week until he finally decided to turn himself in. Alex Tshego and Michael Erasmus's trial finally started, and after this, Alex did everything he possibly could to try and delay the court proceedings. He changed lawyers on numerous occasions and even married his second wife in court. He denied hurting Raymond or ordering Michael to do so. He claimed that Raymond burned himself with boiling water, cut himself with wires, and refused food. He also said that Michael was a bully and that Raymond was mentally ill. After his arrest, Alex released a statement on stormfront.org and claimed that he just provided crucial services to protect the farmers' community. He also claimed that Raymond's mother and stepfather sent him away from home and that they were just willing to pay thousands of rand to get rid of their son. At one point during the trial, Alex even blamed his son Anthony, and people believe that because of this, Anthony decided to help the prosecution. He saw what his father was doing, that his father was willing to throw him under the bus, and he just wasn't going to stand for that, so he went to stand with the prosecution alongside his mother and other siblings. On the 16th of April 2015, Alex Tshego was sentenced to 20 years for murder and 5 years for child abuse. Michael Erasmus received a 12-year suspended sentence for murder, but he was released early, even though he was only supposed to be released in 2027. It also came out during trial that Raymond was not Alex's first victim. 2 other boys died at his camp in Swartrugens, which is about a 2.5-hour drive northwest of Johannesburg. In 2007, 25-year-old Eric Litz suffered brain injuries, and just a couple of months later, 19-year-old Nicholas van der Veld collapsed at the camp. It's reported that Alex would repeatedly tell Eric that he was the M word and that he would make him a man. Alex Tshego received a suspended sentence for Eric's death and managed to escape any charges for Eric's death, whose death was attributed to a heart attack. Alex Tshego is still serving his sentence, and Michael Erasmus is somewhere out there. Please don't come after me. After the trial, Wilna and Guys decided to separate. They planned on getting married and wanted to surprise Raymond when he returned from camp. And Wilna says that instead of getting a wedding, they got a funeral. And she doesn't blame Guys at all for being the one to convince her to take Raymond to eco camp. And that is it for today's case. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.